Ladies and gentlemen, you wake up each day and the world is waiting the noise, the worries, the doubts, the grind. But what if, before you face it all, you started with a promise? A promise that speaks of hope, of a future, and a purpose greater than your present struggles. Jeremiah 29 tells us there is a plan, a divine plan for each of us. You might not see it right now, but there's a path laid out for you. A path that doesn't just pull you out of the darkness, but pushes you toward a light that's been shining on you all along. Now, if you're tired of waking up to the same old doubts and fears, if you're ready to start your day with a purpose that's deeper than any struggle, then stay with me. Because today we're diving into what it means to truly embrace God's divine plan and how to wake up every morning with hope in your heart and purpose in your step. Hope is not just a word, it's the foundation upon which we can build our lives, and it's something we have to actively choose each and every day. Jeremiah 29, specifically verse 11, serves as a beacon, offering a powerful promise that should shape the way we approach each morning. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. These words carry immense weight because they remind us that even when the world seems chaotic, God's plan is unwavering. It's a plan designed to prosper us, to fill our hearts with hope, and to prepare us for a future that we may not fully understand right now. Every morning we wake up, we are faced with choices. We can choose to let the pressures of yesterday's failures and tomorrow's worries dictate our mood. Or we can choose to anchor ourselves in the promise of hope that Jeremiah 29 provides. Hope is like the sunlight that breaks through the darkest clouds. It doesn't erase the clouds, but it shines through them, giving us clarity, warmth, and direction. This isn't about a vague optimism or pretending everything is perfect. It's about acknowledging the reality of life's hardships while still choosing to believe in a brighter tomorrow. It's about waking up every morning with the mindset that no matter what happened yesterday, today holds new possibilities and God's plan is at work, even if we can't see it. We have to make a conscious decision to see each day as a fresh start, a new opportunity to align ourselves with a plan that's far greater than our own understanding. When we start each day with hope, we are not just waiting passively for things to get better. We are actively partnering with God's promise, taking steps forward in faith, even when the road ahead seems unclear. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the demands and responsibilities that greet us every morning. Maybe you have deadlines piling up, relationships that are strained, or challenges that feel impossible to overcome. Those obstacles are real, but so is God's promise. Starting the day with hope doesn't mean those challenges disappear. It means we approach them with a different attitude, one that says, I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds my future. Hope in this context becomes our anchor. An anchor doesn't prevent the storm from raging, but it keeps the ship steady amidst the waves. When you wake up each day with your mindset on Jeremiah 29, you're choosing to let hope be your anchor, keeping you steady even when life gets rough. It's about having a foundation so secure that no matter how hard the winds blow, you remain firm in your purpose. And that purpose is rooted in a divine plan, a plan that promises not just survival, but prosperity, not just existence, but a life filled with hope. There will be days when hope feels distant, when you struggle to see the purpose in your challenges or the point in your pain. Those are the days when Jeremiah 29's promise matters most. It's a reminder that your circumstances don't define you, God's plan does. When you wake up feeling lost or burdened, remember that hope isn't about what you see in front of you, it's about trusting the unseen. It's about believing that there is a future waiting for you, filled with opportunities and blessings that you can't yet grasp. Each morning you have a choice to let your circumstances weigh you down or to let hope lift you up. And when you choose hope, you're choosing to see beyond the immediate, beyond the now, and into the promise of a future filled with God's goodness. This isn't easy. Sometimes hope requires us to act against our feelings. It requires waking up and saying, today I will trust in a plan that I don't fully understand. Today I will believe that there is more for me than what I can see right now. That choice can be hard, especially when yesterday's disappointments are fresh in your mind. But each new day is a gift, a chance to start over, to realign with God's promises, and to step forward in faith, knowing that even if today is hard, it's part of a bigger story. It's part of a journey that is leading you to something better, something greater, something filled with hope. Every day you can choose to let hope guide you in how you respond to life's challenges. Instead of reacting out of fear, you can respond with faith. Instead of letting anxiety take hold, you can root yourself in the promise that God's plan is to give you hope in the future. It's a plan that doesn't just offer survival, but flourishes in the midst of adversity. This doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you face it with a strength that comes from knowing you are not alone. God is with you and his plan is working, even in the moments when you can't see it. Waking up each morning with hope is about resetting your focus from what the world says is impossible to what God says is promised. It's a daily act of surrender, releasing your fears and doubts and allowing the promise of hope to fill the space where worry used to live. It's a mindset shift that doesn't just impact your mood, it transforms your entire outlook on life. When you start your day with hope, you are setting the tone for everything that follows. You are telling the world and yourself that no matter what comes your way, you are anchored in a purpose that's bigger than the present and rooted in a future that's promised by God. So every morning, let hope be the first thing that fills your heart and the last thing you hold on to when you lay your head down at night. Trust that each new dawn is another step closer to the future God has in store for you, a future filled with hope, purpose, and his unwavering love. Finding purpose in God's plan is about trusting that every twist, turn, and challenge in our lives has a reason, a divine intention that goes beyond our understanding. We often face moments in life where the path ahead feels uncertain, where setbacks and struggles seem to have no rhyme or reason. But Jeremiah 29 reminds us that there is a divine hand guiding us, a plan specifically designed for our growth, our well-being, and our future. This kind of purpose isn't about always knowing where you're going. It's about knowing that you're not walking the path alone. There's a bigger picture that we can't fully see, but it's being painted with every choice, every hardship, and every triumph we experience. Purpose isn't always clear, and often it doesn't align with our plans. We may have a vision for how our lives should unfold, only to find that life has other ideas. Disappointments, delays, and detours come. And it's easy to question why things aren't working out the way we expected. But understanding purpose in the context of God's plan means trusting that there's more at play than what meets the eye. It's about realizing that even when things don't go our way, they are still going God's way. Each experience, each obstacle, each unexpected change is part of a divine blueprint that is leading us to something greater, something we couldn't have anticipated on our own. This kind of trust doesn't come easily. It's hard to surrender control, to let go of our own desires, and to believe that there is a purpose woven into the challenges we face. We want to understand the why behind every difficulty, but sometimes we're not meant to have all the answers. Sometimes faith requires moving forward without clarity, embracing the uncertainty, and knowing that even in confusion, there is a purpose we can't yet grasp. It's about finding meaning in the midst of the unknown and believing that our story isn't over, even when we can't see the next chapter. Purpose, according to God's plan, is not just about individual success or personal satisfaction. It's about aligning ourselves with something bigger. It's about living a life that not only fulfills us, but also impacts others in ways we might not even realize. Often the struggles we face and the lessons we learn are not just for our benefit, they're part of a larger narrative that touches the lives of those around us. Your story, your trials, your victories, they have the potential to inspire, to uplift, and to guide others who may be facing similar challenges. God's plan for your life isn't just about you, it's about how your journey can be a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of faith. Living with this sense of purpose means waking up each day with a readiness to serve, to contribute, and to trust that even the smallest acts have significance. It's about being open to where God is leading you, even if the direction isn't what you expected. Maybe you had dreams that didn't materialize or opportunities that seemed to slip away. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that our purpose is tied to a specific outcome or goal. But God's purpose for us is not limited to a single moment of achievement. It's a continuous journey that shapes and molds us, often through the very things we never planned. It's in those moments of unexpected change that God's purpose often shines the brightest. When you understand that there is a divine plan, it transforms the way you view your struggles. Instead of seeing challenges as setbacks, you begin to see them as stepping stones, necessary pieces of a larger puzzle that's being put together in God's timing. It doesn't mean the pain isn't real or that the frustration isn't justified. It means that those feelings have a place within the context of a purpose that goes beyond our immediate circumstances. Each difficulty becomes a lesson, each loss a chance to grow, and each moment of uncertainty an opportunity to deepen your trust in the one who knows the whole story. Finding purpose in God's plan isn't about passive acceptance, it's about active engagement. It's about seeking Him daily, asking for guidance, and being willing to follow, even when the way forward is unclear. It's about listening for His voice in the quiet moments and trusting that He's speaking, even when you don't hear Him. Purpose in this sense is dynamic, it's alive, it evolves, and it requires us to be constantly in tune with God's direction. That means we must be willing to let go of our own plans, our own expectations, and be open to the path that God is laying before us. It's a path that may be filled with unexpected turns, but it's also one that leads to a destiny far greater than anything we could create on our own. When you begin to live with this sense of purpose, you start to see God's fingerprints in every part of your life. The moments that once seemed random or meaningless now have a deeper significance. The failures you thought would break you become the very foundation upon which God builds something new. The relationships that came and went, the dreams that changed, the unexpected opportunities that appeared, all of them become threads in a tapestry that is far more beautiful and complex than you could have imagined. It's about trusting that God's purpose is not just for some far-off future, but it's unfolding here and now in the present with every step you take. Purpose is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about never making mistakes, it's about learning from them and letting them refine you. It's about being willing to get back up when you fall and to keep moving forward, knowing that every step, no matter how small, is leading you closer to God's ultimate plan. And that plan is good. It's filled with hope, with promise, and with a future that is bright, even if the present is hard to navigate. Trusting in that purpose means letting go of what you think your life should look like and embracing the life that God is calling you to, one that is rich with meaning, filled with love, and guided by a divine purpose that is greater than anything you could imagine on your own. Starting your day with faith is about setting the tone for everything that follows. It's about making a deliberate choice each morning to focus on God's promises rather than the anxieties and challenges that might cloud your mind. When you wake up, the world immediately begins to pull you in different directions, emails to answer, tasks to complete, problems to solve. It's easy to get swept up in the whirlwind of responsibilities and distractions, letting your worries dictate your attitude. But starting your day with faith is about stepping back from that chaos, even for a few moments, and grounding yourself in something bigger than the demands of the day. Faith isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's choosing to trust in God's plan even when you don't see how it will unfold. It's acknowledging that there are things beyond your control and surrendering them to a higher power. Every morning, before the noise of the day takes over, you have an opportunity to set your mind on things that are eternal rather than temporary. It's about saying, no matter what comes my way today, I'm going to approach it with the confidence that God is in control. I may not know what the day holds, but I trust who holds the day. That mindset shift can transform not just your mornings, but your entire outlook on life. There's something powerful about starting the day with a quiet moment of faith. Maybe it's through a prayer, a meditation, or reading a passage of scripture like Jeremiah 29:11, which speaks of a plan and a purpose for your life. Taking even a few minutes to focus on God's promises can be the difference between a day filled with anxiety and a day lived with confidence. It's not about pretending that everything is perfect or denying the challenges you face. It's about confronting them with a heart that's rooted in faith rather than fear. It's a way of preparing yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for whatever the day might bring. Faith in the morning is a way of declaring victory before the battles even begin. It's about setting a tone of expectation and hope instead of dread and worry. Life has a way of throwing unexpected obstacles in your path, news you didn't expect, challenges you weren't prepared for, or setbacks that catch you off guard. But when you've already started your day anchored in faith, those obstacles don't have the same power over you. You're not reacting out of fear or frustration because you've already grounded yourself in the knowledge that God's plan is working, even when it's not visible. You approach each problem not as something that will defeat you, but as something you will overcome with God's guidance. Every morning, faith gives you the chance to reset and realign your priorities. It's easy to get caught up in the demands of life and lose sight of what truly matters. But when you take that moment to focus on God, you remind yourself of a greater purpose, of a mission that goes beyond just getting through the day. It's about aligning your actions, your words, and your choices with the values that matter most. Instead of being driven by stress or ambition alone, you're motivated by a sense of calling, by a desire to live out the principles of faith in every interaction and every decision. That kind of intentional living doesn't happen by accident. It starts with a choice every morning to put God first. There's a peace that comes with starting the day in faith, a peace that doesn't come from the absence of problems, but from the presence of trust. It's the kind of peace that allows you to be patient when you would normally rush, to be kind when you would normally snap, to be hopeful when you would normally despair. It's a peace that affects how you treat the people around you, how you handle stress, and how you make decisions. It's a way of saying, I know this day might be tough, but I also know that I'm not facing it alone. That assurance doesn't eliminate difficulties, but it changes how you experience them. Instead of being overwhelmed by what's ahead, you feel empowered to handle it with grace and strength. When you start the day with faith, you also set an example for others. Your attitude becomes contagious. People notice when you're not easily rattled, when you handle stress with a calm assurance, when you face challenges with a quiet confidence. Your faith becomes a light that shines in the darkness, a testimony to the power of hope and trust. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about showing that even in uncertainty, you have a foundation that doesn't waver. It's about living in a way that invites others to wonder what gives them that peace, what gives them that strength. And in those moments, your faith becomes more than just a personal choice. It becomes a witness to the world around you. Faith isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily commitment. Every morning is an opportunity to renew that commitment, to say, today, I choose to trust. Some days that choice comes easily, other days it's a battle. But the beauty of starting each day with faith is that it builds a habit of trust, of hope, and of resilience. Over time, it becomes second nature to turn to God first instead of letting the worries of the world dictate your mood. It becomes easier to remember that God's plan is good, that his promises are true, and that even in the midst of life's chaos, there is a purpose that's being fulfilled. When you start your day with faith, you are not just preparing for what's to come. You are declaring that whatever comes, it will not shake you. You are choosing to believe that there is a divine plan unfolding, even in the mundane and the routine. You are deciding to let hope be the driving force behind your actions, not fear. And as you make that choice day after day, it becomes a part of who you are. You become someone who doesn't just react to life, but responds with purpose and faith. You become someone who faces each day not with dread, but with anticipation of what God might do in and through you. Starting the day with faith doesn't guarantee that everything will go smoothly, but it does guarantee that you will face whatever comes with a heart that's ready, a mind that's focused, and a spirit that's unshaken. It's about walking into each day with your eyes set not just on what's in front of you, but on the bigger picture, on the divine plan that's at work in every moment, every challenge, and every opportunity. It's about living in the assurance that no matter what today holds, you are held by a love that never fails and a purpose that never fades. Doubt is a part of life. No matter how strong our faith or how confident we may be, there are moments when doubt creeps in, making us question everything, our choices, our purpose, and even God's plan. In times of uncertainty, when nothing seems to go right, it's easy to feel lost and alone. But that's when the message of Jeremiah 29 becomes most crucial. It's a promise that transcends our circumstances, reminding us that even when we can't see the way forward, there is a divine assurance guiding us. God's words, I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you hope in a future, are a beacon in the darkness, a lifeline for those moments when doubt is overwhelming. They are a reminder that God's plan is not deterred by our confusion or by the obstacles we face. When doubt sets in, it's often because our situation doesn't look like what we imagine or hope for. We expect things to go a certain way, to unfold according to our timetable, but when they don't, the gap between expectation and reality can be disheartening. In those moments, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture, to focus so intently on the problem in front of us that we forget there's a purpose behind it all. This is why the assurance found in Jeremiah 29 is so powerful. It's a call to look beyond the temporary struggles and to trust that there's a greater good at work, even when life seems to be falling apart. Overcoming doubt doesn't mean never questioning or never feeling uncertain. It means acknowledging those feelings and choosing to trust God's plan anyway. It's about saying, I don't understand why this is happening, but I believe that there's a purpose to it. Faith doesn't eliminate doubt, it transforms it. Doubt becomes an opportunity to deepen our reliance on God, to lean into his promises rather than our fears. When we start to shift our perspective in this way, we realize that doubt isn't a sign of weakness, it's a chance to exercise our faith, to let go of our need to control and to let God be God. This kind of trust is not easy. It requires us to let go of our expectations, to surrender our desire to know all the answers, and to accept that sometimes things won't make sense. It's a challenge to step out in faith when the ground beneath you feels shaky. But that's exactly where God's assurance matters most. The promise of Jeremiah 29 doesn't guarantee an easy path, but it does guarantee that there is a path, even if it's not visible yet. It's about believing that the present uncertainty is not the end of the story, that God is still at work, still writing, still guiding, even when we can't see his hand in the moment. God's assurance gives us the courage to face doubt head on, not by avoiding it, but by confronting it with the truth of his promises. When we face challenges that make us question everything, we have a choice to let doubt dictate our actions or to stand on the assurance that God's plans are for our good. This doesn't mean we ignore our doubts or pretend they don't exist. It means we bring them to God, trusting that he's big enough to handle our questions and strong enough to carry us through them. It's about finding strength not in our own ability to understand, but in God's ability to lead, no matter how uncertain the way forward might seem. There's a powerful shift that happens when we start to view doubt not as an enemy, but as an invitation. It's an invitation to seek God more deeply, to rely on him more fully, and to trust in ways we might not have if everything had gone according to plan. Doubt pushes us to ask hard questions, to wrestle with our faith, and ultimately to grow stronger because of it. Each time we choose to trust God in the face of doubt, our faith becomes more resilient, more unshakable. It's not about having perfect faith, it's about having faith that's willing to persevere even when the answers aren't clear. God's assurance isn't a promise that we won't face hardships, it's a promise that those hardships will not define us or our future. They are temporary, but his plan is eternal. We have to remember that God's timeline is different from ours, and what seems like a delay to us is often divine timing. Sometimes we have to go through seasons of doubt and uncertainty because they prepare us for what's to come. They refine us, teach us patience, and deepen our trust. It's in the waiting and the wondering that God often does his greatest work in our hearts, shaping us into who we are meant to be. Overcoming doubt is a daily decision. Every morning we have to choose to start the day with the assurance that God's plan is in motion, even if we don't see it. It's about trusting the process, embracing the unknown, and believing that God's purpose for us is good, even when our circumstances suggest otherwise. It's about holding on to hope, even when hope feels like a fragile thing. The promise of Jeremiah 29 is not just a comfort, it's a call to action. It's a challenge to live each day in faith, to take steps forward even when the path isn't clear, and to trust that God's future for us is filled with hope. This kind of trust transforms how we handle setbacks and disappointments. Instead of seeing them as failures, we start to see them as part of the journey, a necessary part of the journey, a necessary part of our growth and our story. We begin to understand that every no is not a rejection, but a redirection, that every closed door is leading us to something better, something more aligned with God's purpose. Doubt doesn't have to paralyze us. It can propel us forward, deeper into a faith that is rooted not in circumstances, but in the unchanging nature of God's love and his plans for us. Jeremiah 29 is a promise that we are never without hope, never without purpose, even in our darkest moments. It's a reminder that our story is being written by a loving creator who sees the end from the beginning. Our doubts, our fears, our uncertainties, they are all part of the journey, but they do not define it. What defines our journey is the assurance that God's plans are for our good, that his promises are true, and that his purpose for us is filled with hope, even when we can't yet see the full picture. Each day we wake up and choose to trust in that purpose. We are one step closer to the future God has in store, a future that is rich with his love, his guidance, and his unwavering assurance. Embracing hope in times of hardship is one of the most challenging yet transformative things you can do. Hope is not just a wishful feeling or blind optimism. It's a deliberate choice to believe that better days are ahead, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. It's easy to have hope when life is going well, when the path is clear, and when everything falls into place. But real hope, the kind that sustains you through the darkest nights, comes into play when life feels like it's falling apart. That's when the promise of Jeremiah 29 is most powerful, offering a beacon of light in the midst of the storm, reminding us that God's plans are filled with hope and a future, even when our current situation is full of uncertainty and pain. Hardships are inevitable. We all face moments that test our strength, our resolve, and our faith. Whether it's a loss, a setback, a disappointment, or a season of waiting, these moments can leave us feeling crushed and disoriented. It's in these times that hope becomes more than just a word, it becomes a lifeline. Embracing hope doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending that everything is okay. It means acknowledging the pain, facing the challenges head on, and still believing that something good can come out of it. It's about trusting that God is working even when you can't see the evidence. It's about knowing that the story isn't over, that this chapter is just one part of a much larger, more beautiful narrative. Hope is a decision you make every day, often in the face of overwhelming odds. It's choosing to get up in the morning, even when it feels easier to stay down. It's choosing to believe in possibilities when all you see are obstacles. It's deciding to trust God's promise of a future filled with hope, even when the present is filled with heartache. This kind of hope is not about denying your circumstances, it's about defying them. It's a courageous stance that says, I may be in a difficult season, but I won't let this season define my whole life. I believe there's more ahead, that God's plan is still good, and that this struggle is not the end. Hard times often make us question everything, our purpose, our direction, and even God's presence in our lives. But embracing hope is about looking beyond what's visible and clinging to what's eternal. It's about remembering that God's promises are not dependent on our circumstances. They are constant, unwavering, and true, even in the darkest moments. Jeremiah 29:11 is a reminder that God's plan is not just for our survival, but for our flourishing. His hope is not a temporary fix. It's a deep assurance that goes beyond the immediate pain and points to a future that is good, a future that he has designed specifically for us. Embracing hope during hardship requires a shift in perspective. It's about seeing the obstacles not as dead ends, but as detours that lead to a greater purpose. It's about recognizing that the challenges you face are not pointless. They are part of a process that is shaping you, growing you, and preparing you for what's to come. Hope allows you to see beyond the struggle, to understand that the current difficulty is not a punishment, but a preparation. It's about trusting that even when the road is rough, there's a reason for every bump, every twist, and every unexpected turn. It's about holding on to the truth that God doesn't waste pain, that every hardship has the potential to be transformed into something meaningful if we let hope guide us. One of the hardest things about embracing hope is that it requires vulnerability. It's a risk to hope, because hope opens you up to disappointment, to the possibility that things might not turn out the way you want. But it's also the most courageous thing you can do. Hope is about putting your trust in something greater than yourself, in a plan that you may not fully understand, but that you believe is good. It's about letting go of the need to have all the answers and resting in the assurance that God does. Hope doesn't mean you won't have doubts or fears. It means you won't let those doubts and fears have the final say. It means you choose to believe that God's future for you is brighter than the present struggle, even when you can't see how. In times of hardship, hope is what gives you the strength to persevere, to keep moving forward when it feels like giving up would be easier. It's what allows you to find light in the darkest places, to see beauty in the midst of brokenness, and to discover joy even in sorrow. Hope shifts your focus from what you've lost to what you still have, and from what's gone wrong to what's still possible. It's not about minimizing your pain, but about maximizing your vision, about seeing beyond the immediate and trusting in a greater reality. Hope doesn't remove the pain, but it does give you the power to endure it, to rise above it, and to emerge stronger on the other side. Embracing hope also transforms how you interact with others. When you carry hope in your heart, it spills over into your relationships, your attitude, and your actions. It allows you to be a source of encouragement to those who are struggling, to offer a listening ear, a comforting word, or a helping hand. Your hope becomes a testimony, a light in a world that desperately needs it. It's not about pretending to have it all together. It's about showing that even in the midst of your own hardships, you are anchored in something unshakable. Hope is contagious, and when you choose to live with hope, you inspire others to do the same. You become a living example of what it looks like to trust in God's promises, even when life is hard. At the core of embracing hope is a deep, abiding trust in God's character. It's believing that he is good, that he loves you, and that his plans for you are for your benefit, not your harm. It's understanding that his timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with your own. It's about finding peace in the midst of the storm, not because the storm isn't real, but because God's presence in the storm is more real to you. Hope is about standing firm on the promises of God when everything else is shaken, about holding on to faith when it feels like it's slipping away, and about clinging to God's words when they are the only thing left to hold on to. Choosing to embrace hope during hardship is a daily act of courage. It's a decision to believe that the best is yet to come, that God's plan is still unfolding, and that his promises are still true. It's about living with an expectation of good things, even when life is tough, and about trusting that every hardship is another step toward the future God has prepared for you. So it's about waking up each day with the determination to see the good, to find the blessing, and to hold on to the hope that God's plan for you is filled with peace, with purpose, and with a future that is brighter than anything you could have imagined, even in the midst of the darkest days. God's purpose for your life is not just a vague concept, it's a reality that is intricately woven into every aspect of your journey. Sometimes in the rush and routine of daily life, it's easy to forget that there's a divine purpose at work. We get caught up in our goals, our struggles, our successes, and our failures, and we lose sight of the fact that there's a bigger picture, one that God is constantly shaping. Understanding and embracing God's purpose means stepping back from the immediate circumstances and seeing your life as part of a greater narrative, a story that God has been writing since the beginning of time. Each day, each experience, each challenge, and each triumph is a part of that story, leading you closer to the future God has in store. Embracing God's purpose requires trust. It's about believing that every part of your life, even the difficult moments, has a meaning and a place in the grand scheme of things. It's recognizing that God's plan is not just about the end result, but about the journey itself, the growth, the lessons, and the transformation that happens along the way. Sometimes we think of God's purpose as a destination, a point we reach when we've got it all figured out. But God's purpose is lived out day by day, moment by moment. It's in the way you respond to challenges, in the choices you make when no one is watching, in the small acts of kindness and the big leaps of faith. Every decision, every step you take is an opportunity to align your life more closely with the divine purpose God has for you. Living with a sense of purpose doesn't mean you will always know exactly what to do or that you won't make mistakes. It's not about perfection, but about direction. It's about living with intentionality, knowing that your life has meaning beyond what you can see in the present moment. It's about trusting that God is at work in the details, even when you don't understand them. Sometimes God's purpose unfolds in ways you didn't expect through a closed door, a difficult decision, or a season of waiting. Those moments that seem like setbacks are often setups for something greater. They are part of the process that God uses to shape your character, to prepare you for what's next, and to bring you closer to the future he has planned. Understanding God's purpose means embracing both the highs and the lows of life. It's about seeing success not just as a reward, but as a responsibility, a chance to use what you've been given to make a difference. It's about viewing struggles not just as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow in faith, to develop resilience, and to rely more deeply on God's strength. Each part of the journey has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. The times of joy are a glimpse of the fulfillment God wants you to experience, and the times of challenge are the refining fires that strengthen your faith. When you start to view your life through this lens, you find meaning even in the mundane. Every encounter, every conversation, every choice becomes a chance to reflect God's love, to pursue his will, and to live out your purpose. God's purpose is not limited to a single aspect of your life. It touches everything. It's not just about your career, your achievements, or your goals. It's about who you are becoming. It's about the way you love, the way you serve, the way you persevere in the face of trials. It's about living in a way that points to something greater than yourself, that reflects God's love and grace in the everyday moments. Purpose is found in the way you treat others, in the way you handle success and failure, in the way you navigate life's ups and downs. It's about using your gifts, talents, and opportunities in a way that honors God, that serves others, and that contributes to a legacy of faith, hope, and love. One of the most freeing aspects of embracing God's purpose is knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to know the whole plan to take the next step. God's guidance often comes one step at a time, giving you just enough light to see the path in front of you. It's about trusting him with the unknown, walking in faith, and being willing to move forward even when you're not sure where it will lead. God's purpose is not a rigid script you have to follow perfectly. It's a dynamic, unfolding relationship that invites you to be an active participant. It's about being open to change, to new directions, and to the surprises that God has in store. Living out God's purpose is a journey of faith, one that requires you to listen, to learn, and to grow. It's about seeking God's will in prayer, studying his word, and being attentive to the nudges and prompts that come along the way. Sometimes God's purpose will lead you to unexpected places, asking you to step out of your comfort zone, to take risks, and to trust in ways you never thought possible. But in those moments of stretching, you discover new strengths, new capacities, and new dimensions of God's character. You find that his purpose is not just about what you do, but about who you are becoming in the process, someone who reflects his love, who lives with courage, and who walks in faith. Embracing God's purpose also means accepting that his timing is different from ours. We often want things to happen according to our schedule, but God's purpose unfolds according to his perfect timing. There will be seasons of waiting, times when it feels like nothing is happening or when progress is slow. But those seasons are not wasted. They are times of preparation, times when God is working behind the scenes, laying the groundwork for what's to come. It's about learning to be patient, to trust that God's delays are not his denials, and to remain faithful in the in-between times. Waiting can be one of the hardest parts of embracing God's purpose, but it's also where some of the deepest growth happens, where trust is tested and strengthened. God's purpose is ultimately about transformation, transforming you, transforming your circumstances, and using your life to impact the world around you. It's about becoming the person God created you to be and fulfilling the role he has uniquely designed for you. Your purpose is not something you achieve once and for all. It's something you live out every day. It's about the choices you make, the values you uphold, and the way you navigate the challenges of life with faith. Each day is an opportunity to step deeper into that purpose, to learn more about God's heart, and to align your life more closely with his will. When you embrace God's purpose, you find a sense of peace that goes beyond your circumstances. There's a confidence that comes from knowing you are part of a bigger plan, a plan that is good, that is full of hope, and that is guided by a loving creator who knows you better than you know yourself. It's about living with the assurance that no matter what happens, whether you reach your goals or face setbacks, whether you have clarity or are still searching, God's purpose is at work. It's about trusting that every step, every decision, every season has a place in the larger story God is telling. And that story, with all its twists and turns, is ultimately leading you to a future that is brighter, more meaningful, and more beautiful than anything you could have imagined.